here just to discuss some information tonight about the future of Alby Quarry as it moves towards becoming a construction debris landfill. And I think that the best way to do that would be to have the city come up and give a brief explanation of the history of the quarry, some of the proposed ideas that are not going to be moving forward, and then what they see is moving forward. And then I'll come up and explain the process a little more. Then we'll have the representative from the quarry explain where they are at and what their future timeline and map looks like. And I do believe we also have somebody from a neighborhood association that will be speaking in a moment as well.
I guess I'll just try to give you a quick 5-minute synopsis of how this project has kind of evolved over the years. We were approached probably in the mid to late 1990s by the owner of the quarry at that time, Mr. G. Little. And of course, he had varying ideas of what he wanted to do with the quarry itself, as mining was supposed to be wound down. And then he also had other interests in mind to the west of Alby Street. Over the years, from the 90s through to the present time, he has bought a tremendous amount of land in that area. Nonetheless, we entered into negotiations with him probably around 2001 to deal with a construction debris landfill around the quarry. And by 2003, then Mayor Sandage and the then City Council finally agreed to a host agreement, which would have opened the door for him to proceed with the siting process. Unfortunately, he never proceeded down the path of doing a construction debris landfill. Before the ink was dry, he immediately hit us with, we want to do a general refuse garbage landfill. And the city's position then, and I think it's safe to say now, is absolutely not. It's not right for that part of town. It's right in the heart of town to have garbage being brought in just like they do to South Roxana is nothing that we're interested in. Nonetheless, the siting process has not begun. There will be a process that they will have to follow going through the IPA. There will be city involvement. Back in 2003, the city adopted Ordinance 6769, which tied to that siting process. We can demand monies be paid to us to hire our own independent engineers to assist in that siting process. We haven't arrived at a number because we haven't gotten to that point. But the city wants to be comfortable, for the citizens' sake, for our own sake, that if this is done, it's done right. We don't know what the conclusion of this process is going to be. It hasn't really started. But Christine came in, I guess, a couple weeks ago, and we had Greg there, Mayor and I, and we went through a bit of the history, just like I'm doing right now. And that's kind of where we are. Nothing really has begun. Now, that you may have some questions about some of the quarrying operations, or for lack of a better term, some of the blasting operations, to be more accurate, that has occurred there. One of which we felt at City Hall a few weeks ago at Rockfus. So we are concerned about that, but our position remains the same on that. The original legal description that was given to us in 2003 is the quarry boundaries. We consider it a legal non-conforming use in an R2 neighborhood, and until they, there's no way that we can see any quarrying expanding beyond that original boundary of Alby Quarry. And with that, I'll turn it over to Christine.
Where we are at now is that the siting process is beginning. The company has been working with some engineers and putting together their documents. I do have a copy of that. It's called the fatal flaw analysis, which just sounds awful. But I think what it means is if something were to stop this from going forward, it would be contained in this document. This tells you all the possibilities of how they might run across a problem, whether it's in an earthquake zone that's just too much of a hazard, or you name it. So you're more than welcome to go through this and look at what their engineers have already been doing. Like Phil said, the city may request that they have engineers go out as a peer review group and look over those documents and actually go on site and do some testing as well. But they can't really do that until the application comes in. So we're only holding this meeting as to kind of head off any problems and any rumors that might be going around the town, especially as Phil started out saying, this is not to be a regular household landfill. This is to be a construction landfill. And that being said, construction debris, I thought I'd give just a little bit of a information, a rundown of what construction debris is typically considered. Now, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency did not have a specific page laid out for Illinois and their description. Many states already do have those on the books, and they vary. So the typical construction, according to the EPA, is the primary inner fraction. So we're talking about buildings that are being torn down, roadways, driveways that are being replaced. We've got asphalt, brick, cinder blocks, concrete with rebar and without, masonite, tile, glass, dirt and earth, plastic sheet film, plastic pipe, porcelain, like you might find in a bathroom fixture, metal, both ferrous and non-ferrous, electrical wiring, insulation, fiberglass, and even plastic buckets and containers that are used to do the demolition. That being said, there's a lot of, I believe it's like 75% of all the materials on a construction site do go into a recycling process. There's valuable materials in there, and there's a lot of contractors that understand they can actually make money off of their byproduct versus paying to have it landfilled. I don't know what the process is for individual trucks coming into this proposed business to have any type of recycling occur out of it, because most of it occurs on site while the demolition is occurring. So when I say electrical wiring, they might not have any electrical wiring. You just never know. That might be something that is really beneficial, you know, for reuse at this moment. There can also be high organic based fractions, and that would include things like ceiling tiles that has that little bit of paper porous, insulation treated cellulose, corrugated shipping containers like boxes, pallets, pressboard. Those off gas, and there are specific regulations that the EPA has set out for making sure that these are taken care of in a proper way. I know that you're going to, Mr. John Wunderlich is going to go over the liner, but there's to be a plastic liner and then 3 feet of clay as well to deal with a lot of what would be proposed to be put in here. The range of composite materials is a little bit different. That's like the carpet and the carpet padding, electrical switches, rubber hosing, and conduits. So it is a wide variety of items that is typically considered acceptable within a construction demolition debris landfill. I was not able to find out if asphalt was allowed in Illinois, so I hope that we can come up with that answer. But when we go through the public hearing process and the EPA is there, that's when we'll get really specific and nitty-gritty about those type of questions.
How about asbestos?
Not quite sure if asbestos is allowed to be in it. From what I saw, all the states that had it on their Environmental Protection Agency website were not accepting asphalt. Illinois did not have a particular ordinance.
Asbestos.
That's what I'm talking about, sir. Asbestos.
You said asphalt.
I said asphalt.
Yes.
I am so sorry. Asbestos.
That's why he's confused.
I'm confused.
Different.
So, yeah, right now it's not laid out to me very clearly, and hopefully the EPA can help us figure out if asbestos is allowed to be in there. It is considered a hazardous waste in some states. Hazardous waste will not be allowed to be at this particular site as far as the EPA has told me so far. They will not allow waste from household, industrial lunchrooms, or offices, landscaping, liquid, or hazardous wastes. And I can get you all the information about where to go to find those lists of what each of those may contain.
How about special waste?
Special waste, those would have to get a special permit, and it would have to go through a whole nother process, a siting process. This process and the agreement that they have set out is only to accept construction debris waste. It's not to, it's at this point not able to accept any of the foundry sands, the auto shredding material, the coal ash that has been discussed in the paper. Those might be something they work towards in the future, but once again, they go back to the drawing board and this process begins anew. And then once again, there's public hearings and all of that. Those items I just mentioned, the Sierra Club does have quite a bit of concern about. Auto shredding residue, it's the 20% of vehicle materials that remains after a vehicle's been shredded of all its reusable parts. So it's got metal pieces, residual metal pieces, fabric, glass, sand, rubber, plastics, all the oils and stuff it's not usable. That would have its own permitting process. It would not be going through, from what I understand, during this particular proposal. Foundry sand, that does have a lot of trace elements that are left through the different processes. It's a clay bonded iron and aluminum foundry sand usually that's going to be landfilled. That would also have to go through a different permitting process, as well as coal ash. There's not a coal ash standard just yet that's been passed through the United States. Illinois does have one. It is considered a special waste under Section C of the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. And if you're wanting to look more into that, you can, but once again, that would have to go through a different permitting process. Coal ash is a concern of ours mostly because there are 24 power plants in Illinois, with a total of 83 impoundments. There's only one permitted landfill at this point that accepts coal ash. Coal ash can basically be defined as, the fly ash, the bottom ash, the slag, anything that's left over that's not useful to the power plant. And with only one landfill accepting it in the state of Illinois, we know there's not been a lot of, it's not a common procedure basically, it's new. So we're watching that real closely on what's going on at that particular site, and if it were come to a permitting process, it would be once again a separate process. So I hope that kind of gave an explanation of what the EPA has been telling me and what I've read, and I know that there's been a lot of questions out in the community that don't have to do with specifically the items that are put in there, but have more to do with the quality of life issues for the neighborhood. And so before we get to that part, we're going to have Mr. Wenderlich, who's a partner with your, I don't want to say it correctly.
But I'm a consultant.
You're a consultant for the Alby Quarry. It's now called GP Materials Incorporated. They're based out of Crete, Florida. And he'll be letting us know about the actual, where you're at now in the process. Got some great maps, and hopefully you can point out some different things that would have been of interest to you.
The previous owner of the quarry did what a lot of quarry owners would not do, and there's a vertical wall. It's very dangerous over time. When it rains, and winter comes, freezes, you get the freeze thaw. There's a lot of what's called fractured rock. So when you look up on that wall, you'll see large pieces of rock that look like they're ready to drop off. So it's a dangerous situation. And what's going to be done, and what's started to be done, is they put in like ledges. If you go down the highway where they've cut through rock, you'll see a ledge, and then like another ledge. And what that's for is as that rock fractures, it comes down. It's not going to drop right on the highway. It drops to a ledge. So that's the process that's been started, and this darker area here is where it has been done. And it'll have two purposes. It'll make this road a two-lane road, so to speak, so when a truck goes down, it doesn't have to wait. The truck at the top right now would have to wait for a truck to come all the way up before it can go down. So you want two lanes to go down. But there's also going to be a ledge put in so that the fractured rock isn't a danger to the truck drivers or anybody in the quarry. The new entrance will be off of 20th Street. And the firehouse is about here, so this is a little to the west, I guess, of the firehouse. It's where 20th Street peaks, so that there's 500 feet of sight distance in either direction. There will be signage. Trucks coming in and out will not be allowed to go left. They will have to go right to 67. So there's just a very short stretch that they'll be on to get in and out of the quarry. And they'll come around and wrap around here and then go down and come back up. There's a plan to actually asphalt the drive. At some point they'll be using to cut down on dust. The Alby Street entrance will be closed. It's always been dangerous and kind of a hazard, so that'll be closed. There is a plan over here. It's pretty heavily overgrown, and this area will be cleaned up, and there's some thought at some point maybe even have some office space perhaps, or some other use of this land here, but it'll be cleaned up in the meantime. It's really overgrown, and that'll be all cleaned up. Well, the North Quarry, Fred Weber, they blast every day. At 4 o'clock, they drill in the morning, 4 o'clock, the blast would go off. I'd sit in my office, I could feel it. I was right across the street. I had an engineer, and I'm not an engineer. But an engineer, Fred Weber, explained to me, he said, it's not the jolt, it's the vibration field that gets set up. They said, in theory, if you had a cat go across the Golden Gate Bridge, it wouldn't make any noise, but if that cat kept the same rhythm at the same speed and went across the bridge, it would bring the bridge down from the vibrations. Now, in the old days, when people blast, they'd have one big blast, or they'd have a series of blasts, they'd set them off at once, kaboom, okay? What we do, and what Fred Weber does, and what people do that know what they're doing nowadays, when you hear a blast, it's really not one charge going off. It's like 16, but they're staggered. And they're at different intervals. And what happens is the vibrations cross each other and cancel each other out. You'll still feel something, but there will not be the damaging vibration field set up. So Weber still is in that building. It's still standing. It's right across the street. They blast 6 days a week. There's no structural damage to it. And you can feel the blast. And so I did want to make that point. When you feel a blast, it doesn't mean there's damage happening. The way they do it is very scientific. It's really a whole series of charges, but they're staggered. And I'm talking about milliseconds apart, as opposed to all going off at the same time, setting up a vibration field. The only other comment I'd make is going back to that meeting that we had with Phil, right, he did make it very clear. He said there will never be a garbage dump in Alton, and that's fine. And we want to do a construction debris landfill. It's really a different beast altogether. The landfill that Weber operates over in Maryland Heights is a garbage landfill. Throws off a lot of methane gas, which they capture. Actually, they won an award from the state of Missouri because they capture the gas and they pipe it to a high school next door, Parkway North. And Parkway North runs all of its utilities off of free methane gas from Fred Weber year-round. But there won't be that problem with this. There will be a leachate system, meaning that anytime you have a quarry, you've got a hole in the ground, water collects. So you've got a way to take the water. Even when you start filling up with debris when it rains, there's water that's going down that has nowhere to go that sits at the bottom that they call leachate. So it's the water that leaches through everything. That will be recovered and reused. It's actually, in a sense, clean water compared to what you would get in a garbage landfill. In a garbage landfill, like Fred Weber has, they have to get permission and they have to pay a fee to the Metropolitan Sewer District to put that water into the sewer system because it's nasty stuff. And that's kind of where things are. With the blasting that's going now, it's creating enough rock to supply the demand. I don't know if the demand will pick up for more rock or not, but I mean, it's not exactly, it's.
But John, it's our understanding in the mayor's discussions that obviously when the quarry is going to cease operation so that the landfill operations can commence, at least that's how we've understood.
Yes, at some point it will cease.
Some point a year, 10 years, 30 years? Or is that just on a?
No, it'll be much sooner than that. The other thing is that this, for a lot of reasons, this cell has an uneven wall that needs to come off, again, for safety, but also filling. When you go to fill the thing, you've got to have, trucks have to go and dump stuff, you know, and so it has to have more of a conducive shape to make it easy for trucks to get in and out of it. The way this is now, there's kind of a bad area here that it'll make it difficult to get to that area with the material that's going to be.
But our agreement, should this landfill make it through the siting process to be approved, as soon as the liner, which would be the first step in constructing a landfill, would start, under our agreement, mining has to stop.
The mining has to stop at that time.
When the liner is ready to start construction, the pouring has to be done. No more by this agreement. That gets back over.
When are they expecting that period of time will be that we'll be able to start here?
I'd say within a year is my best guess at this point. A lot depends on how we don't know how long the approval process will take to get things going. You know, that's always a big question mark. But Phil's right. I mean, once you put a liner, you have to stop pouring. I mean, because you've defined the sides then, and that's the area you fill, and you can't.
Yeah. And that's what's going to protect our water table here?
Yes.
Is that like?
Yes.
What happens to the water now? Does it go into our sewage system?
No, it gets recycled on there's water that's used in a crushing process to cool down things, and you spray water and also to keep dust down. So we've got like a water truck that puts down water to keep dust from clouding up and going into everybody's.
What about the downpours you've had? I mean, what about the groundwater?
Well, right now, the water pools at the bottom of the quarry. And I believe there's, and I'm not sure how far down it is, but there's a layer of shale, I believe. That's similar to the Fred Weber quarry, for example. They've got down to where they get to a layer of shale. Now, if they went through 20 feet of shale, they'd get more limestone they could mine, but it becomes cost prohibitive to mine that deep. But shale is impervious to water. So it's like a bowl. The water's not going to go anywhere. Now, you put liners on the side because you don't want to go in laterally. But the bottom of it holds water now. And that water gets pumped up and reused.
The way the other gentleman explained was that off of 20th, they do notice there is some runoff, especially in high water events, and that it's currently pumped either for reuse, and if it's a large quantity, it's pumped to a city meter. It goes through a pipe and then goes out into the sanitary combined.
That's similar to what Weber does as well.
Right.
When
So it ends up.
It gets excessive, but that's unusual. Normally it's.
Right. So it would go through the regular city's filtration system, and they're being metered on the excess.
That's pre-liner though. I mean, there's no liner on it now.
Yeah, that's now.
Maybe that's
Right.
current, that is current. So the plan, and there's a liner, is the leachate system.
The problem it gets into is when you start filling up. When you start filling it with debris, like anything, if you took an empty bowl, you put rocks in it. If an empty bowl would hold a gallon of water and you fill it with rocks, it's not going to hold a gallon of water anymore. If you pour in like a third of a gallon, it'll fill it up. Right now, the water is staying at the bottom where it's not going anywhere. But as you come up, as you put debris in there, the water level within there will rise to where it could get to side areas, and that's when you need the liner as you fill it up. But right now, as the water goes down there, it's pumped out. The problem is once you put debris in, of course, you can't see it, but you have a leachate system that pulls that water out from the bottom. Yes.
I know your plan has been well thought through, and I don't know about diving pools, but has that been considered as
About what?
a diving pool? turning the quarry into a diving pool. Is that, which is, I know, done and very popular, very successful in other states.
No, I don't, it's,
If the concern is holding water, and that indeed the quarry does hold water. Has that been considered?
no, there's, you mean you create like a recreational
Exactly.
water area for people to,
Right.
no. I guess to do what needs to be done there, well, I don't know, they're, I'm not a swimmer, I don't like deep water. I've seen that whole thing of a pool that deep, wouldn't get me diving into it. But, I know that's done, it has been done, and the problem becomes one of liability, I think. And what do you do, you know, if you're the owner of the quarry, it's I guess it's no different than people that have a swimming pool in their backyard. I don't, you know, I'm not a swimmer, but, you know, they have to get insurance in case a neighborhood kid comes and, even though they're not authorized, and then they're sued, and it'd be a lot of liability, potential liability, I guess is.
How deep is it, and how long into the future is it gonna take to fill it up, and what, do they plan to fill it all the way up?
Well, the plan is to fill it up eventually. How long that takes is, you know, we have no way of knowing, once you open, how many people, how often will they come? We've got no control over that, over how much construction debris is brought to the site.
And the siting process, permits, is this something like the different special permits? Is that something that's tagged on after the thing is in progress, or is it
No, it has to
shut
be done
it down
before.
entirely beforehand?
It's done beforehand. You've got to, you can't start taking the stuff till you've gone through the site process and gotten the approval from.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's up and running for one thing, can they tag on another permit later down the road?
It'd have to be a separate process. You mean if they went to,
No coal ash as of now, but coal ash 5 years from now.
it'd have to be a separate, it'd be a whole separate process. It'd be like starting over with the State Department of Natural Resources.
Yes,
Controls all that.
maybe, but
To keep this from becoming an eyesore.
Well, I think we feel that we've made it about 100% better than what it was 2 months ago. I guess part of the plan is to reclaim, so to speak, that hole. I mean, it is an eyesore, and it's dangerous. I could tell you horror stories about Fred Weber. You know, when you have a hole in the ground, we had some kids. There's a high, 10-foot high fence with barbed wire on top around that property. And it's a big hole. And Fred Weber pays Maryland Heights police officers to patrol at night. So one night, they're on patrol and they see kids running in the quarry. They had cut through the chain link fence with wire cutters. What they wanted to do in there, I have no idea. Around the hole, like most quarries do and like we do, we have like a berm of rock. Probably about 2 foot high. It's just a mounded thing of rock. It marks the border of the hole. It's dark. One of the kids was running. He sees the, guess what he did? He jumped over 200 feet down. The only thing that saved him is Fred Weber had ledges, so it wasn't a straight fall. But I can't tell you everything he broke. If it were me, I wouldn't like the idea of a hole in the ground that big. It is a potential problem. Kids are kids. Kids will find their way, I'll guarantee you they'll find their way in there. They did it Weber. It's just, it's not a good thing.
How many trucks a day might be coming to this with construction?
The good thing about construction debris is that we anticipate there won't be a lot of trucks. And number one, they'll come off, or they either come in very early in the morning, like 5 or 6 in the morning, or 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Because what the type of debris we're talking about, I don't know if you've seen the big other containers, they're big steel rectangular containers that you go to a construction site, and a truck goes and it becomes the bed of the truck, so to speak. It pulls this big container onto it. Well, during the day they need it. You can't do it during the day because the construction workers are throwing stuff in it. So you either have to get it early in the morning before they start, or at the end of the day after they've left. So during the day, there really shouldn't be any.
But you have no estimate of how many per day might be coming in?
Again, we can't control.
And is this stuff mainly going to be coming from Missouri, or is it Illinois? You don't know that?
It can be from anywhere, but again, based on the location of some landfills in Missouri, we expect most of it to come from Illinois.
From what, 30, 50 miles radius from up here?
No more than that. It's a the other thing about hauling material, you know, we say when Weber's sold rock, you got a load of limestone. If you were taking it across the street, the cost of the haul was more than the limestone. So you can't afford to haul stuff long distances because it becomes cost prohibitive. So normally 50 miles is considered kind of the longest distance most people are going to travel with anything, whether it's rock or construction debris or.
Mayor, is there going to be some kind of like traffic study or something? Would that be appropriate for this?
I don't think they need one.
Okay.
The big thing we were worried about was keeping it away from the residential neighborhoods. That's why they moved the entrance up to 20th Street. Everything would come in from the north, come down 67.
They'll be coming through downtown, they'd be coming from the south, they might be coming up
Keep them running through the city streets down there.
67 and on 20th Street.
Another thing somebody asked about filling it, I think it was this gentleman. I think, and Christine probably knows more about this, I mean, you can only fill so far from the top. And then it has to be end-loaded with dirt.
Yeah, there's got to be a certain number, and I don't know
I
off the
don't
top of
know
my
how many
head.
feet that is. But if you can only fill, like, we'll just say hypothetically, 3/4 of the way up. I think it's more than that, but there's a definite level of depth that you have to put with dirt to seal this thing when you're done. With the liners, there's a liner. I don't know if you want to get into that with the liner and how you cover it daily. I don't know if you're that well versed on it.
Well, you can't, I mean, the plan would be to fill the hole. The mayor's right, there has to be a layer of dirt, some depth on top, I can't recall the depth, but also as you fill it, you have to put dirt in. You can't just put debris in and not have any dirt as you go. You have to put dirt in as you go along with the liner and use fill material, and part of it is to stabilize a lot of the stuff, the dirt helps, when it rains, the dirt settles in around, makes it more solid for the trucks to drive on, that it's not just bricks and
But if I may,
pieces of
John,
concrete.
once again, and I know you're filling in for Greg here, one of the big concerns we've had, since this was presented to us a decade ago, is the only nearby source for dirt is 4th of July Hill. We oppose that. I can't think of the name of the material, maybe you can help me with it. But
Right.
It's a posi shell system.
and they are going to spray a synthetic material on it every night to cover it, because taking dirt west of Alby Street is not acceptable either.
We have dirt on site, the dirt that we need, we have on site. Phil's right, there will be a spray-on covering.
It's kind of
that's
like
used.
the ice cream, when you dip it, it hardens the shell. It's a foam like that, or it's a spray, and then it solidifies at night, holds everything down until the next day, and then you just keep, and you have to do that I think even
Every day.
They have to cover every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the, how quick it'll fill, obviously, until we define that waste stream and where material will come from, you can't really answer that question. I'm not here to speak for these guys, but if you have, it depends how we define the waste stream as a community as to what's acceptable and what's not. Obviously, the looser the standards, the quicker it's probably gonna fill because you can take in more material.
Where's the stuff going now that's gonna be dumped into this? I mean, where are people taking their materials this very moment?
I'm not sure.
Isn't there still a big landfill right over the middle of the zoo?
But McCarthy Brothers has Rock
We
Hill.
do have a
McCarthy had-
landfill over there that
yeah,
make this thing look like a thimble.
Yeah, off of
I mean, the
Rock
heavy
Hill.
equipment looked like little toys, it was so big, I've been over there and toured that years ago, and it was right on 40 in the zoo.
Couple more questions for John, and we've got one more speaker, we want to make sure we have a chance for him to
Is
speak.
there gonna be a byproduct coming out of this air landfill?
No.
Are they gonna recycle,
No.
like mulch or anything like that?
No.
Compaction ratio, are you gonna be doing that all along?
Yeah, it'll be done, there'll be a dozer working back and forth every day as they, to both push. Normally you have the load and you dump the load and it's a big pile, so a dozer has to put it in place and move it, and just that back and forth. The other thing about construction debris, it compacts better than garbage. Yes.
Just a point to correct something that was said. Traffic study, traffic is one of the siting criterias, and the siting process requires a traffic study.
We have, and I know there's been a traffic study done, and it'll have to be updated, but we have had a traffic study.
Will the city of Alton benefit from this? And how?
To what degree, I couldn't tell you, but we'll get,
Well,
I guess we'll do that in the.
Yeah, right now, we'll get $1.50 per ton under the current agreement, and it will increase by 4% per year under the current agreement. Now, I don't know, what they may want to come back and say, well, that was another guy that agreed to that, but yeah, we've looked at, that side of it. Now, how quickly it's going to come in, I have no idea.
So what's going to be the process for watching what comes into this as far as, you've got truck after truck after truck coming in. How do I know what's on that truck and it's not prohibited material or dangerous or hazardous material? How do I, who's going to inspect that? How do you keep track of that?
We do. The operator, Fred Weber, for example, has that problem. Anybody that accepts waste has that problem. I would say it's minimal. When you're talking about construction debris, you minimize some of that, partly because it's too hard to hide stuff under bricks and concrete, as opposed to when you got somebody bringing in, the best examples, the guys at wherever they come in, they have tree branches on the back of the truck. You have no idea what's under those tree branches. And you ask them, but as soon as they dump, because the dozer operator knows what's there.
That's right.
And you gotta take it out. And at Weber, they know exactly who brought in what. They know who that was, and they make them pay for it. And they don't, and the operator can't afford to do it because the operator is the one that's licensed and has to answer to the state DNR. If we say we're not gonna accept it, we can't accept it. But it gets back to that, when it comes in, it gets dumped, and you got a dozer operator, and he knows exactly what's there.
If it ends up being to where you do have chemicals that leach into the groundwater, who's going to be responsible for it?
We would, the operator would.
And that's 10 years after it's closed?
Well, again, the liner is, when it's done properly, that doesn't happen. The liner prevents it from happening. and the leachate system is really the key. I mean, whatever makes its way down to the bottom gets pumped out. You can't let it sit in there, whatever it is. And we're not doing it because we think it's hazardous material. You just can't let it fill up with water. You've got to keep pulling it out.
Well, your question is, how long's the liability, isn't it?
Basically.
What's that?
Normally, it's, I think, in perpetuity. You have to monitor it for 20 years.
I can tell you our landfill, our old garbage landfill at the, up by Roberts Ford, it was closed, what, Phil, 20 years ago? 20, we pay, like, still pay $36,000, $50,000 a year to have that landfill monitored by the EPA every year. And we still get cited if they go out there and grass isn't cut properly, we get cited. They find too many leaves and branches in the pavement, you can't let that.
So the city of Alton, basically.
Oh yeah, your tax dollars go to pay that.
Our tax dollars and the thing for.
Well, that would be a different entity because the city owns this property.
Oh, the city.
Yeah, the city owns the landfill. Not you can't build on a landfill.
What's the noise level gonna be in this year?
But yeah, we pay, a lot of people don't know that, it's quite expensive, and we have to monitor that. We're getting close to the end at some point in time, but they've been doing it for over 20 years, and they finally get to the point where they think they're okay.
Christine?
Yes.
In fact, we're sending crews out tomorrow to start cleaning up the landfill for the EPA's office.
I just wanted to ask Phil a question.
Absolutely. Phil, Jim Rain, and Alderman has a question.
You know, when the city tears down anything, there's asbestos removal first, right? What happens to that? What happened to the asbestos? I mean, I know it goes to someone, one of these type places. But this facility would not take asbestos, is that?
The stream of whatever's accepted has not been determined.
Correct.
And we have the ability under our ordinance to hire a third-party engineer other than Andrews to represent us, to tell us the pros and cons of
What's allowed?
what we feel comfortable with. And under the ordinance, GP Materials has to pay us, so we can pay our engineer.
Okay.
So what basically is going to happen next is in the process is, assuming they get all their ducks in a row, the company is going to turn in a application to the city. The clock starts. The city at that point already has they have their ordinance set up since '03 on how the process is going to work. They're going to, a hearing officer will hold an evidentiary hearing, and they have the burden of demonstrating that the quarry owners have the burden of demonstrating that they can meet the 9 criteria that's currently set up for being allowed to have this type of facility. And I have those here if you want to see what those 9 criteria are. At that point, the public can question the city's experts, the quarry's experts. They can basically do some cross-examination. They're going to be sworn in. All of this will be taken down in a transcript. That transcript then goes to the city council. The city council becomes the pollution control board and has a hearing. That's when the city has the hearing. Throughout this process, they have to let the public know. The EPA will be letting anybody that lives within 250 feet know of any permits that have been turned in, any applications that have been turned in. So you will continue to be able to be involved then. And that's when all the nitty gritty about, is it really, how thick is the clay liner, and then is it 3 feet of compacted clay? Do our city engineers think it needs to be 4 feet? Do they want to accept, asbestos and all of that? That will take place then. And then it basically, at the end of the 120 days, when that clock first started, when they turn the application in, the city will either approve it or disapprove it. If they do nothing, it is approved. So they will either be probably doing nothing, or passing an ordinance that it is approved, resolution that it's approved, or they will send them back to the drawing boards for some changes. And that's just the siting process. That's not the final step. After that, the Bureau of Land receives a permit from the owners of the quarry. And that is like it's a long process.
To the neighborhood surrounding the quarry. At this point, we have questions about this proposed project. Does the company operating this project have any experience or track record elsewhere with a similar landfill? What government agencies, county, state, or federal will have oversight over this project? What health risks are expected? What are the traffic concerns? How many trucks a day will be coming into the landfill? Has there been any kind of traffic study done to this project? We hope these questions can be answered and that much more information will be released before the landfill will be opened. Let's gather information.
How many more blasts? The one that we just had shook my kitchen.
It was bad.
We,
It was bad.
I can address that to some degree, and I can't promise you relief, but we complained to Mr. Paris after
Well, I
that
live
last
a lot
blast.
closer than City Hall, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, and the whole floor shook.
Bill thought there was an earthquake at City Hall that day.
Right.
I thought it was gonna be on Broadway.
It was worse than any
We
of the
called him after
quarry
we had a talk.
blasts.
All I can tell you is we had a talk with him, he's gonna reevaluate the way they were when they're blasting. I think, and this is, I think, part of the problem was they're blasting closer to the top. They used to always blast at the bottom of that hole, which is about 280 foot deep. Is that right? I think one cell, there's two cells, there's actually two holes there with the wall in it. One's 280, about 300. Yeah, and anyway, but they used to do their blasting at the bottom of those holes. Now they're blasting close to the top to make these ledges. And he's told us, what he said, he's gonna some way blast different to keep those. That's what he described with the tremors is what it was.
But I know it's hard to
You call it sequential blasting, is that what this is called? That was what was explained to me, what you have to stagger.
Yeah, the problem is just because you feel it doesn't mean there's any damage. You can feel it.
I'm sitting in my living room watching cracks appear, and it hasn't happened in the last month when you blasted it. I sit there and watch it. You're in a historic neighborhood with plaster walls and rigid houses. You're not in drywall. You've got, as Terry said, we've got all these historic districts, and that's why blasting keeps coming up, because we're tired of paying for damage that never gets paid for. And I've got it again. I've got it in my living room. If you want to come over, I'll show it to you. And it happened at the exact time you all blasted down there. And it's just, how come this is acceptable?
Well, what you have to realize is to the degree as Mr. Paris wants to work with us, and he's been extremely gracious, just the opposite of Mr. Lipple, who we can never get along with.
Right.
But Mr. Paris has been agreeable, we've showed him our concerns, but you still have to keep in mind, this is ultimately monitored by a Bureau of Mines at the state, and they have what they call an acceptable level. His level last time, because he emails me before, he promised he'd put it in the paper before every blast, and then he emails me after the blast. And this was a .54, which he's allowed a 1. And so his .54 is too much. And he said it's something to do with the way they planted the charge. Am I right, Phil?
Yeah, he said it went
And
more
they're
horizontal.
gonna, I'm gonna see him tomorrow. I will share these concerns again. I'm gonna meet with him tomorrow at 2 o'clock on another issue.
It's just an endless concern. I mean, I've fixed my house dozens of times, and this just keeps happening.
Well, that's why if we can get this done right, and that's yet to be seen, the blasting stops.
That's why, those are music to my ears. I want to hear this blast.
My daughter lives over in the Milton area, and I've sat there at her house when that Mississippi line blast, and pictures on the wall and
Oh, yeah.
foundations.
I've got plaster dust, plaster falling to the floor, and it's just like, my God, then I hear it's gonna blast for another year. Good grief.
That's pretty weird. I don't want to speak for Mr. Paris, but I didn't think he was gonna blast that off. I thought he told me there'd be about 4 or 5 more blasts.
4 or 5.
Well,
Building these ledges.
yeah, I think he was talking about that this year.
Because he said there wouldn't be another one now till around
When we were
August.
going through this, I had Mr. Lippold at my house when we were having these concerns. This has been ongoing, and, yeah, amen. And he offered me a load of free rock, which I declined. But anyway, we were explained by the Bureau of Mines and Minerals that this rumbling or this roaring you're talking about affects everybody because we're sitting on these limestone shelves. I mean, that limestone extends back way into my house. And you're literally just projecting that under our entire neighborhood. I'm not right on top of you. I'm up on Langdon Street, the 900 block, but I can time damage to.
I I will do my best tomorrow to express your concern.
I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
everybody in the whole neighborhood is
Oh, yeah.
concerned.
I hear it all the
All
time.
these people are here.
And I know they tell me it's not possible to do this type of blasting, to counteract each other, and I'm sorry, it's not true.
Did Liverpool use that type of blasting?
Yes, they use sequential blasting, is what they explained to me.
Did they?
And what it was explained to me from Bureau of Mines and Minerals was that's not necessarily a good thing in plaster houses and historic neighborhoods because it causes a rumbling.
Do you remember when Gene blasted once and it threw a rock over the street and
Yep.
hit a person's window?
Yep, and you hit the firehouse. So, but anyway, that's my major concern. I mean, I'm obviously interested in the whole landfill issue, but my God, this blasting just never seems to go away.
We have 2 more questions.
I just had a question, the 0.5 level you mentioned, how long has it been at that level, or when did it go up? I mean, obviously it went up, so I
No, I'm saying,
last
what I'm saying is he sent me, and I'm taking his word for it. that-
Right.
That the blast monitored at a .54, and I
Right.
guess he's allowed up to a 1, so he's saying almost half of what I could be doing.
And I
Monitor every
understand that, but
blast.
go ahead.
They monitor every blast, so they find
Maybe
five,
I
four,
don't- maybe I don't understand the question.
higher than some of the other, part of it, it's an imperfect science. One of the problems you run into when you blast, if there are seams in a rock,
Right.
that energy will go to the path of least resistance. So you could have one blast on one day and you won't feel hardly anything.
That's true.
You could have a blast on another day and it'll find a seam. And it'll run, it could go miles.
Right under your
I guess what
house.
we've noticed, my husband and I were on Liberty and Euclid, so what we've noticed is the blasts seem larger over the last several months, not just the very last blast.
And I think, again, that's because of the elevation of where they're blasting.
Yeah, and it might be.
Instead of being
and we
300
did-
foot underground, now you're maybe 15 foot from the top.
Right.
So,
And we did have a large increase in cracks in the living room ceiling and had it repaired in December. And then right after this last blast, we had a couple of clay tiles slip down, immediately afterwards. Down off our roof.
Any concerns you do have, and I'll talk to him tomorrow and see more about the blasting schedule and when it's gonna be. Anybody's got any questions, call my office and I can get a hold of him. He's a real fellow. And we can find out, well, I can get more concrete answers to the questions that I don't know anything about before.
Yeah, look,
Except when you're in the bottom of that thing, picking up, it's gonna take a long time to fill it, I'll tell you that.
And Mr. Harris, now, is he buying the property?
He has bought it.
He has bought the property.
Actually, the primary owner is Len Silcox. Len Silcox is the majority owner. Greg is a partner, Tim Corey is a partner, but Len Silcox owns the largest part of it.
So Mr. Lippold and Garlandville and his outfit have absolutely nothing to do with any of this.
Not with that quarry, now, like Phil says, he still owns everything in West Alby, that's where you wanna keep your eye.
Well, the agreement started in 2003 and is a 20-year agreement, and I don't believe anything started over. I think it's just the time that was lost is been lost. One of the articles I found in a trade magazine said that 2/3 of the area is about 340 feet deep, and 1/3 of it is only 200 feet deep. The volume of fill material is estimated to be 8.8 million cubic yards within the life of the project. I don't know how big 8.8 million cubic yards is, but.
Green space.
You can't build ever, is that correct?
I don't know on that type of landfill where you can't over garbage landfill.
You can't overturn ever.
Well, that was my question. What would
I never put settlers.
They say green space would be what happens afterward. We have been offered an opportunity to go on a tour. If there's anybody that is interested in doing that, I'd be happy to set that up with Mr. Harris. He even said if anybody wanted to do a tour during the next blast, as long as there wasn't a ton of us, we could all fit inside. There's some kind of housing unit, maybe it's the way station down there, that you can stand in there when they do it. And I don't know, I'm interested, I think that sounds like something I would like to see. Yeah, so.
You really ought to see the whole thing, really. I mean,
Yes, I agree.
If anyone's
Greg has
interested in
offered,
this tour,
he will take anyone on a tour, but you really ought to see it.
That's why I'm going back tomorrow. I have 2 lawyers with me. They didn't want to go down in the hole. We drove by there. And he didn't have his truck with him today. He had his car, but he said, I'll drive my truck with him tomorrow. I'll take it down.
Have you been out?
Yeah, he's easy to get along. He's a
25 years ago.
Make sure you go down 4 wheels.
Do you want to go on a tour?
Absolutely.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I think that, whoever's interested in going on a tour can go on it. Know that we are looking in constant conversation with the EPA on the different water and air quality permits. The big one, like I said, is going to be the land permit. And they haven't heard word one from this company. So the process has to start with EPA. If you ever wanted to call my office, wait a couple of months, see if it has started, or you want me to recontact everybody, I would be happy to do that.